hello. Here we are in this gathering space for Soul Connections Conversations. This is a gathering space where we share our spiritual journeys and our soul's connections, purpose, and gifts. We're weaving a spiritual community here. On my spiritual journey, I have met so many wonderful soul sisters and brothers that are my soul connections. Wonderful souls that have helped me, guided me, and taught me, and above all, connected at a deep soul level. I am honored, happy, and excited to bring them to this circle to share their stories with us. And today we have my soul sister, water sister, Patricia Grootjans. Hello, Patricia.
Hi, Teresa. So glad to be here. Thank you.
Likewise, thank you for being here. I'm so excited. I mean, we have so much to share, so much in common, and our meeting, it was just like, oh, just magic. So
Yeah.
let me tell the audience about you. Patricia is a quantum healer, astrologer, and author, and we'll talk about that. After a life-changing near-death experience, she delved into past life regression and acquired training in QHHT under Dolores Cannon. She continued her work with BQH and developed her techniques, quantum healing for all and quantum energy clearing. Her books delve into her encounters with multidimensional planes, cosmic awareness, the spirit of water, and awakening. Her book, Ocean of Love, Quantum Healing for All, was published in 2019, and in 2024, she published The Healing Light of Water, Encounters with Our Cosmic Ancestors. In this book, Patricia shares her experiences with Arcturian, the Galactic Council, and the initiations she received. The spirit of water influences and guides her spiritual journey. Patricia conducts classes in astrology and quantum healing, emphasizing a heart-centered approach. And you can find her at her website, www.patriciagrootjans.com. And I will post all of these below the video, her Instagram and YouTube links, and her email, so you know how to get in touch with Patricia. So yes, thank you, Patricia, for being here. Such
Thank you,
an
Teresa.
honor.
I'm so glad to be here, really. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's start at the beginning. Let's tell the audience a little bit about yourself. I mean, how was your growing up like, such as your childhood, and what significant stories do you have that have contributed to your interest in the spirit world and esoteric kinds of body soul work? And where you coming from right now? Tell everybody where you at, please.
Yes, yes. Well, I live in the Netherlands, in Europe, of course, and this is also where I was born. And I come from a little town living next to the shore. And I grew up with my parents and one sister. And my father was a kind of a spiritual man. And he had always had predictive dreams. He always knew when something would happen. He knew when people would get sick or when they would die. And he was fascinated by extraterrestrial life. So ever since I was a young girl, we had these deep conversations like, where did the universe start? Where did it begin? And where does it end? And so I've always been open to spiritual perspectives and also knowing that this earthly life is not the end, not the beginning, and that it's just part of a cycle. And and I also have my own spiritual awareness as much as you could have as a child, of course, but I was communicating with angels and well, I had kind of a spiritual connection with source, as you could say, and which really expressed itself through poetry because that was my only language at the time. But I started with astrology at a very young age. I was about 12 years old when well, when someone made my birth chart for the first time, and I was so fascinated by it, and I thought I want to learn how to do that. So I began with self-studying astrology, and later on I did the professional training, which was a 5 years training. So I've been working with astrology for 40 years now. So it for me it's a language. It's a star language. And so it's like, yeah, it doesn't really influence everything because I feel that we always have our own free will, but it's a way of looking at life and seeing the cosmic patterns. And that is something that I've grown used to ever since I was a very young child. So I guess that's where my spiritual journey began. And I, looking back, I think that water has played a huge role in my awakening. I think that the first experiences that I had with what you would call unity consciousness was always near to water, sitting at a lake and feeling complete oneness with God, with nature. And so I've always had this sensitivity and connection with, well, the earth. And I've explored many different, well, religions. I wouldn't call it religions, but like the old way, um, and Buddhism, of course. And but I never really identified with one particular religion or anything. I just, yeah, take what is useful and what resonates, and I don't want to limit myself, yeah, to identify with one religion or anything. But I guess although I have been spiritual and open for cosmic awareness and extraterrestrial life, I think the really big awakening happened about 17 years ago. I also have to calculate when was it. And that was after a near-death experience, and which was happening during a very, well, actually traumatic time in my life. And I always like to skip that part and just talk about the near-death experience itself, because that was so beautiful. And but it was life-changing. And I think although I really was already working with past lives, and because in astrology I was focusing on how can we find past lives within the birth chart. But having that experience, that when your mind, your brain doesn't function as that we are used to. I couldn't count to 8 and I couldn't hardly talk. I could hardly walk, but yet I had awareness. So that's where I learned that who we are is not the brain, it's not the body. The body and the brain are just tools that we use for our soul to express itself, but it's not who we are. And so I really had this deep awareness and awakening into um, who we are on a soul level. And I think the biggest gift of that near-death experience was that I felt utterly connected with everything on Earth, with everything in the cosmos, like every cloud, every tree, every human being, every stream of water. I could see that everything was energy, and I could see that we are all connected, and that there's actually one big consciousness in which we are all a unique expression of that one consciousness. So I think it changed my life. I mean, yeah, when you have an experience like that, you can never go back to who you were. It changes everything. But yet I also realized that in order to function in this everyday life and to relate to my family, my loved ones, you need to be able to, yeah, to exist within two realities, your own unique reality and the higher dimensions, and what we call the shared reality, which is the everyday life, and where we all have basically the same understanding of things. And so it really took a while before I was able to process everything that came from that experience. And I've learned that, well, I like to call it like an enlightenment experience. And I'm not saying that I'm enlightened, because I don't think I am, but people can have an experience like that where they are able to step into a frequency of their consciousness where everything is one. And once you have that experience where you can step into that unity consciousness, you're able to step out of it and go back there into that frequency whenever you want to. And I think that's the whole meaning of having an experience like that. And so, yeah, that was really huge, huge awakening. And I think although it was very difficult for me to understand what was happening because I think it also kind of related to a Kundalini awakening. And and I didn't know anything about Kundalini at the time. So I really had to find out and discover and learn everything, yeah, from
All
that
at
experience. On
all at once, right? It was just like such a like fast
exactly,
awakening, right? That it took you
exactly,
to connect within yourself with, like you mentioned, unity consciousness, and to learn all these things that were happening for you, you know. Yeah,
exactly,
thank you for
exactly.
sharing that amazing story. And we often hear sometimes people who have near death life experiences, how that's been a catalyst for uh changing how they live their life and view their life. And thank you. We're going to talk a lot more about that because I know you have it on your books. I just have a quick question. I'm curious, because I know, and I love how you say astrology is a star language. Like, yes, it's like, and I
Yeah,
love it that there's so many more languages than what we speak. You know, a lot of it
yeah,
is energy, and I feel that connection with the earth and the cosmos. Like things just download. Or we were talk about the water. We're going to talk about that. How things just like
yeah,
come, and you're like, it wasn't a spoken language. It was nobody like told me the language, but it was just a knowing that came within me that I know is true. And yeah, so astrology, I want to know what are your sign? What's your sun sign, your moon?
oh
Give me a
yeah.
little your chart, please.
Yes, well, my son is in Pisces, the water sign, of course.
I'm
So
not surprised there. Oh my gosh, I love it.
yeah, and my moon is in Libra in the eighth house, conjunct Pluto. For those who know Pluto, um, Pluto is related to the subconscious, of course. So and my rising sign is Capricorn, and I'm always so grateful for having Capricorn rising because with all the water and air, I think having Earth on the rising sign is grounding. Exactly, it's keeping me in this reality and on this planet Earth, and so yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's great because yeah,
yeah,
I see a lot of people could be like, "Ooh, up here," but like not grounded. And we still live on the earth, so we need to connect with the
exactly,
earth and ground. So, oh, how fabulous. I
exactly,
love that to connect, like to learn, what's your sign or what, kind of tells you a little bit more about things make sense. And like, for example, I laugh about the water, and let's talk about our connection, how we connected. We were presenting back in March. I think it was Pisces season, right? It was the middle of
yes,
March. It was.
exactly,
Yes, and it
exactly,
was it was Beta Austin's, she's a water researcher, and we both participated on her the water and the ancient mysteries. And that's
yeah,
how we came about our connection. And Patricia reached out because our what we shared was like, oh my gosh, I want to talk to this person some more. And here we are talking some more and getting deeper into the water mysteries. And for example, the book I'm reading, you're the healing light of water, that's the first one. I'm like, this one is calling me right now. And the other one is Ocean of Love. Both of them have water in it. So it's beautiful.
yeah,
So yeah, let's segue into who you are now, what you do today, your share your soul's gifts, your offerings. I know you have so much, like, the astrology, the Dolores Cannon training, and
yeah,
yeah, just go.
yeah.
You have the floor, my dear.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I must say that when we both were guests in Vega's webinar, I felt some kind of a recognition. Like sometimes you meet people and you think, I know you. And I had this feeling when I saw you. So, and I really like your energy and how you work with the earth and with water. So, yes, that's why I wanted to reach out. And I think after my near-death experience, I discovered the work of Dolores Cannon, who has developed a method, quantum healing hypnosis, or QHHD, and which is a way to explore past lives. And so I've learned her technique, and I was really, really blessed that I was able to be trained under Dolores herself because she passed away later on, of course. And And many of our students, they went on to develop their own techniques, like Candice Goldman, who developed beyond quantum healing, and which I also practice. And I started to develop my own techniques as well. So at some point, I felt that, well, it was actually kind of during the pandemic that I felt this rush. There's this need that people need to be aware of this. And so I thought, QHHT sessions, they really take a long time. Like a session can take about 5 hours or so. And it is really beautiful. It's really unique. And but it's time consuming. And I felt that I wanted to help more people with the time that I have. So I thought, let's start teaching other people how they can work with quantum healing. So I developed quantum healing for all as a modality, and quantum energy clearing, which is kind of a clearing technique from the quantum perspective. And what I mean by that is that usually when people have a clearing, um, people may tend to look for all the scary things that are in someone's auric field. And I thought, if you are focusing on it, you may attract it or create it. You may draw it to you. So I thought there must be something else, because we're not working with quantum perspectives for nothing. So I thought, how about we turn this around and we do a clearing on the body, on all the energy bodies that we have, by seeing what is going on, and then focusing for 80% on how we want our, our energy system to be. So focusing 20% on the problem and 80% on the solution. And this is how I developed quantum energy clearing. And so, yes, I'm teaching courses in astrology and in quantum healing. And of course, I'm writing books. I've published Ocean of Love 5 years ago. And that was actually my first book. And it was about the quantum healing sessions that I facilitated for other people. And it was also part of about my own spiritual awakening and my Kundalini experience, and how I came to the work of Dolores Cannon. And when I was writing Ocean of Love, I could feel that I was being helped. It was written through me, I can really say. And although it was part about my own experiences and the sessions that I facilitated, I was so guided. And my healing team, as I call it, I believe that we all have a healing team, a team of spirit guides and helpers and angels and ascended masters, maybe. And so my healing team was urging me to explore water and to work with water. And so this is how I came into contact with other dimensions and some spiritual teachers who are on the other side of the veil, um, who have given me a lot of information about water, but also about awakening. And and yes, well, what they told me is that I would find a way how to bilocate, and how to do that following the example of water. And I was so fascinated by that. I thought, I want to know how this works. So I think the the book that I published this year, The Healing Light of Water, is a continuing story of Ocean of Love. It's where I try to explore how we can bilocate, and how we can take water as an example. But not only as an example, I've discovered that water is like, well, it's able to bring us to other dimensions. So we can travel through time, through water, through connecting with water. And like one of the things that we discovered is that there is something what I like to call cosmic water, which is really kind of plasma energy and cosmic plasma. And it was so fascinating. And I think looking back at all the sessions that I did with B, with my friend, who's also a quantum healer, we have received so many beautiful tools, and our healing team have told us that we need to share this. So I've written about it in The Healing Light of Water, about the crystals that we received. And these are etherical crystals that we all can use to, well, for healing our timelines, for healing trauma, for healing our energy body, and also healing the collective. So, yeah, we were really, really blessed to receive all this beautiful information through etherical crystals. So, yeah, and
Yeah, I love that how you share, the places that you went, like Lake Constance in Switzerland to do this. And I have similar thing. I've been doing these things, but consciously knowing what I'm doing, but I don't really tell anybody, but bearing crystals on special places for me, especially
yes,
quartz and
yes,
just kind of creating a grid for like healing the land or the waters, and especially my backyard is like high vibrating garden where I have crystals that I went digging for them myself. In Arkansas there's a lot of quartz mines that you can go pick them, and like you say, is this like inner knowing, like I know what I'm doing, but
yeah,
it's kind of hard to explain to others.
yeah, exactly. So are you living in Arkansas, in that area?
No, no, no. Sorry, I live in California, in Central California.
Ah,
But when I was in Texas, I did a trip to Arkansas. My friend
ah,
knew we can go digging for crystals. Come on, let's do that.
ah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
in yeah, over there's a lot of crystals here too in California. That. But yeah, I'm not the only one doing that stuff. I found out because there's been times when I've been in the forest, like especially close to a stream of water. I remember one instance, like I think it was 2 years ago. I was like something happened and I was really like distraught and I was crying by a tree and the creek, and then there goes a crystal in front of me, like half buried.
oh,
I'm like, really? I'm like,
wow,
like whoever put it here and placed me at the right time and place for it to bring that kind of like healing, like you say, healing energies, and crystals are water, and yeah,
exactly.
it's just
Yes,
powerful.
exactly. Because water is like a liquid crystal, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and how you mentioned, so I do get a lot. I've been getting for the last maybe since 2016 or so, I will say, a lot of downloads with water, and we call it like drops, water, but also like I mentioned in Vedas Austin's, webinars, like the water is a shaman, the ultimate shapeshifter, like, so
yeah,
it takes us from one world to another, the solid state and the gas state as clouds, like I mentioned, like all the information that water has, and then liquid, obviously, and then this fourth stage that we've talked about, plasma.
yeah.
And we are made in her image, like we're 70-75% water, the earth is the same, so it is all about the water.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So could you share a little bit how your also past lives, do you have any stories you want to share? I don't necessarily, I think I do have some, and people have told me, but maybe that's something that I need to explore more into. But do you have any specific ones that you could share from your past lives that come up for you?
Yes, well, I think the most impressive past life that I've seen for myself was in Atlantis, and I shared a little bit about that past life in Veda's webinar as well. Um, so, would you like me to talk about that past life?
Oh yeah, I love it. Anything
Yeah,
Atlantis on the Muria, it's like, our past
yeah,
homes. Yeah, I love it. Please go ahead.
yeah, yeah. Well, it was so interesting because I wasn't actually doing a session. I had been doing a session in the afternoon. And when I came home, I went to lay down because I was a little bit tired. And then spontaneously, I sank into this deep hypnotic state or meditative state. And I found myself in under the earth. And it felt like a cave, but it was really light. So um, it looked like a medical environment. I was laying on a table that was I knew it wasn't an earthly material, and it looked a bit like onyx, like the crystal onyx, but I knew it wasn't on earth and it wasn't um, a, an earthly material. So I was surrounded by scientists at that moment, and I could see that they were doing some kind of experiment, and they were um, bringing an embryo in my body, or well, they were actually creating an embryo, and I knew that they were mixing different kind of species, like they were creating a hybrid species. And what they were doing, they wanted to create a new species that they want to populate the Earth. And it had carried some of their galactic DNA. And I could see that it wasn't one specific galactic race, it was a combination. And they wanted to mingle that with the DNA of a being that was existing on Earth at the time. And so I could see how I was carrying this child and how I was really, really so connected with this child and really feeling this deep love for this little being. And at some point, the child was born and they took it away from me immediately because they didn't want me to attach to the child. But that already happened, of course, because there was already a connection. And what I saw is that they started to panic at some point. I could see that they were working with the baby and they started to panic, and I could see that the child was dying. And I felt sad because of course you felt like it was devastating. I mean, they were taking the child away from me, and then it was also dying. But as soon as the child passed away, I could hear his soul, and he was saying to me um, that he would be with me. And he said, well, they can experiment whatever they want, but I, as a soul, have a free will, and I choose not to be part of their experiment because what they want to do is they want to raise me in a non-loving environment. And he says, I'm not going to be part of that. So I make a choice. So I leave that body. And so I was really happy for the child that he made that decision, a heart-based decision. But what happened, and of course, when you go through this past life memory, you see certain scenes. You don't have the complete story. But what I saw then was that Atlantis went down, like the whole society was collapsed, and somehow I felt responsible. I had a feeling that it was related to how their experiment failed and how I didn't complete the experiment as they wanted me to do. And so it was kind of confusing, but I also realized that that was my first earthly incarnation, feeling responsible for what was happening with the collective. And so that was really interesting to see how my earthly incarnations has started with that feeling of being responsible for something, but also being aware that doing this kind of experiments with DNA and creating new species and hybrid species, that it comes with responsibility and that it can only work, well, in my opinion, if it comes from the heart and if it comes from love and if it is being guided and raised with love. So, and I guess that was my focus point all the time. But what was interesting at that moment, when I was looking at that whole situation, I could see that there was a being with me who was trying to comfort me. And, um, and I knew it was what we now see as Jesus or Jeshua. And, but as a soul, he's much more than just Jeshua. And so he told me that he came from this other collective, a collective of planets where he had been um, having incarnations from one planet to the other. And so he didn't identify as one species, but I could see that one of those planets was Lyra, Andromeda, Venus, But he said it's not important what planets they were, but they were a collective and they're working together, just like the Galactic Council, of course, consists of beings from multiple planets and not just one galaxy, by the way. And we call it the Galactic Council, but it's actually created from multiple galaxies. So, um, but what I found really interesting at that time was that when the whole pandemic was happening, um, I had many people coming for past life regressions, and they would all have memories about Atlantis. And I felt that there was some kind of trigger by what was happening during the pandemic and what was happening in Atlantis at the time. So I feel that a lot of Atlanteans have come back in this time on Earth to complete a cycle of incarnations and also to help humanity going through this ascension process and to make sure that we are not making the mistake that has been made before during the Atlantean period. So, and I think it's so important that whatever is going to happen from now on with the collective consciousness, we need to keep in mind that whatever developments we are going through, it needs to be heart-centered. And I think that this is really something that I always try to emphasize in my work, that no matter what is happening, try to stay centered in your heart, because that's the bridge. It's the bridge between the cosmos and this earthly incarnation. Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. That's why the heart's in the middle, we are that bridge connecting both. And yeah, beautiful. Thank you for that reminder. I would like everybody to, just remind yourselves of that, of your heart, your love, the Christ consciousness that you mentioned is all about love, and
yeah,
we're here to unite and bridge both earth and cosmos.
exactly. And this is why I really loved your cacao ceremony. You called it the Venus cacao. I thought that's so brilliant. And it was so beautiful because it was really all about the Venus energy, about beauty and love and the goddess energy. I thought, wow, that was really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, and everybody
Yeah.
that's available on my YouTube. But yeah, well, the inspiration for that was I have a strong connection with Venus as well, and you mentioned, and from different studies, I'm studying the Mayan. The Mayan had a really big connection with Venus and cacao, and all of it is about love and beauty and the earth. And at that time when I did it last month, it was Venus was, Taurus. I'm a Taurus, so speaking of astrology, my sun and my moon and Jupiter are in Taurus. So I have all that
Wow.
earthly energy, and that's why Venus is the ruler of Taurus, and it's all about, nature and beauty. And that's what flowers, my altar is, things that make me
Yeah.
bring in the joy of nature and the beauty of nature in. So it just fills my soul. It's soul food for me, and the cacao is a heart opener. It's really like the ultimate plant medicine, because it's not something that takes you, hallucinogenics or anything like that. It's just a beautiful energy that comes the cacao from the earth, and even the color of it is the color of the earth, of the soil, and
Yeah.
having that sacredness to it, to open the heart, to open to that love that we're talking about. And just Venus and cacao just go together, and just kind of like I wanted to have a space for us, to feel, coming as your Venus, as the goddess. And
Yeah.
just I think we need more of that in our daily life, to have a space where you can just like, yes, let's just relax into it and bring, the beauty that we carry within ourselves, whatever that is. And just kind of, I'll be doing more. So yeah, stay tuned. But I love that. It's really a good energy.
Yeah.
And yes, like it's that energy of, and Venus, so we're connected, the earth, the cacao, with the Venus and the cosmos. So
Yeah.
through the heart, like you mentioned.
Oh, and what I also really found so beautiful is that you mentioned that it's also a good idea to put some how do you call that, rose petals in the cacao. And I thought that's so beautiful. I mean, of course, roses are related to Venus, but also with the Magdalene energy, of course. And
Yes, I do put the rose powder. You can do that. And
yeah,
also I had the rose quartz, remember? Like So crystals, all the
Yes.
elements, and that's what I had to do, all the elements of the kingdoms, we had, the plants from the plant kingdom, the cacao,
Yeah.
the animal, us,
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
mineral, the crystal and the roses, it just kind of like encompassing everything that is the earth, our home.
Yeah. Exactly. It's so beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. And actually, the rose played a significant role during the initiations that I received that I write about in The Healing Light of Water. For example, at one time we received an initiation from Mary Magdalene. And this happened spontaneously. I mean, we weren't looking for it or anything. It just happened spontaneously. But she also offered us roses, white roses, and so there was really a symbol. Like if you want to clear the energy of the womb or the ancestral line, she said, work with the energy of the white rose. That was so beautiful. Yeah,
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, because your book, the title is, or cosmic ancestors,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, the ancestors, like we were talking right before this talk, is like it's such a powerful tool to like I personally want to know as much as I can about my ancestors because it tells me more
yeah,
of who I am or also helps me know it's like okay, now I can make that connection how I am the way I am or how I feel about certain things, because my ancestors from my dad's side, which now he's an ancestor, a month ago he passed, and that lineage, and then also and had lived in Spain in the Basque Country, but also my mom who passed away almost 30 years ago from the Mexican side, the ancestors of, the Aztec and the Mayan, all the wisdom that they brought into this world that we were talking about in your image you
yeah,
have there of Chichen
yeah,
Itza. And I told you, it's like, oh, it's the place of the watery wizards. So, the water
yeah,
is like connecting, and the water is an ancestor, but it's a past, present, and future because, the memory
yeah,
that it carries.
exactly. Yeah, that's so beautiful. So your ancestral lines are coming from different continents. That's really amazing. Like different waters, like two waters coming together. That's really beautiful. Yeah,
Yes, yes, it's
yeah,
really quite interesting because it's also unique. Not many people know about Basque ethnic group, and also Basque are like the mysterious people of Europe. Don't know where the
yeah,
language is, don't know where they originate from actually, or the language is like completely different. And like I
yeah,
mentioned also on Vera's webinar, how a lot of the language kind of like a lot of native languages are also like conscious language where like the word imitates somehow the nature of that, like water, like it kind of sounds kind of like how the water sounds, or tree, versus modern languages of English, it's a little bit different, but
yeah,
the language of and I think the language it was just a representation of the landscape they live in, like the origin story. That's what it is, the origin
yeah,
story is just a representation of where you are in that time and place.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's really fascinating because a friend of mine, she told me that she studied the Celtic cultures, and she said that the north part of Spain um, is connected to that Celtic tradition. And she
Yes.
says that the Celts, they originally came from India and going even further back from Egypt. So I think these are really old cultures. And so it's fascinating that you come from that part of Spain, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and like you said, we're all
Yeah.
connected. Yes, we have. Even I haven't been to Ireland or any of that area, but what I see, it just looks exactly like the north of Spain where I live. Like
Yeah.
greenery, either like sheep herders or people. There was a lot of whalers in the Basque Country on the Cantabric Sea, and I know the Irish as well and Celts were doing that. And I know there is images of founding each other's, like for example, that was there now. One of the towns we went, there was a Celtic symbol in a rock and stuff like that. They put it in a museum because they are unearthing things. So I know they were
Wow.
in contact with each other or migrated, both ways, depending,
Yeah.
I don't know how long that was, but definitely.
Yeah. So interesting. And I also want to mention when you um, started about the ancestors and how important that is. Well, when I was writing my book, my healing team, as I like to call them, um, they were really urging me that I should write about the cosmic ancestors. And they said there will be a time, and I felt that that will be quite soon. And we never know a date, of course, because time is really flexible. But they said that there will come a time where the news will come out that there are extraterrestrials living on Earth and that they are connecting with Earth. And my guides told me, they said, well, the moment that that news comes, they will try to bring that news inducing fear. And they said, go share with people that we should not be afraid of them because they are our ancestors. We come from them. And so we are connected, and they are no aliens. They are not strange. They are not strangers from us. We are family. We are one cosmic family. And and that felt really important to share that. So I
Yeah,
try to do that with the book without going too deep in certain stories, but just touching upon the connections that we have. And because, I mean, there are so many people working with quantum healing nowadays, and they all go to past lives where they see incarnations on different planets. And when I first started with quantum healing, I thought, why would I want to go there? I mean, life is complicated as it is, so why would we want to connect with beings from other planets? So it wasn't really my interest to explore that, but it happened, and it brought back the memories from my childhood and my father, who was really well communicating about that, talking about that, sharing his experiences, and I thought, well, this is a time where we are able to remember where we came from and how we are connected with other planets. And they're just other expressions of the one consciousness that we all came from. So, yeah,
yeah, definitely. And I feel there's a strong connection to that, like you say, our star family, like for example, the different, in Taurus, the constellation of Taurus, I feel like the Pleiades are there. And like I just like I know I've seen them before. When I started seeing them and recognizing and looking at the night sky, I'm like, you recognize that and then you learn what it is, the story
yeah,
behind it, the Pleiades, the seven sisters, the whole
yeah,
story that goes into it. And then, all of a sudden start making connections. For example, I drive a Subaru. I have bought a Subaru, my son too. And the Subaru has the 6 stars, which are the 6 visible Pleiades. And Subaru in Japanese means Pleiades. I'm like, okay, you start connecting the dots that it's like, it's not a coincidence. It just simple
exactly.
things like that happen. And I think a lot more people are becoming aware of these, systems, star systems, and connecting with them. But also, like I share with my boyfriend, my partner, is like we've been to like sacred sites and look at the numbers. The number 13 is always built into it. And look how what it's not a coincidence that all these civilizations that were Egypt, Mexico, and all over the place, they all build the same similar buildings in connection to the cosmos. In Peru too,
Yeah,
everything is a reflection, is a mirror of that. So I think
yeah,
we're coming back to that because our ancestors knew how to connect to that. And we
yes,
kind of forgotten
exactly.
along the way, and we are reawakening to that memory of our cosmic ancestors, and it's beautiful. It's like you said, like, oh my gosh, we could talk for hours. It's like you start like I like
Yeah,
there's my list of places to go and visit because of every time I read a book, there's another set of places I need to go visit because the powerful healing energies and connection with all, like you mentioned. So that makes me feel like you mentioned, it's like the connection with my deep within my soul with everything that is with
yeah,
nature. I just feel like,
yeah,
wow.
exactly, exactly. Yeah. And that also reminds me that if we want to work with water, it starts with the water in ourselves, doesn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, definitely. So I know we could talk a lot more. We'll talk some more, don't
yeah.
worry. But can you like just to wrap it up? I mean, like just briefly, if you can tell people like what you offer. I know you mentioned astrology courses and what else, and And what else are
Yes.
you working on that people can, you know,
Yes.
just tell
Yeah.
everybody what you're doing?
Okay. Thank you. Well, if people want to get to know my work, they could go to Udemy. I've created 6 courses on Udemy. They're all accredited by the CTAA. So I have 3 courses on astrology and 3 courses on quantum healing. And that's a really nice way to get started and to see if it's something that you're interested in. And I'm planning to organize Zoom courses which are more personal this year around both quantum healing and astrology. And I'm also creating a course around the book, The Healing Light of Water, because all those crystals that we received, they were actually tools. So I'm creating a course right now to share all these techniques, which are related to quantum healing, of course. So, yeah, so I will be offering Zoom courses on quantum healing. And if people want to have a chart reading, of course, they can send me an email or either through my website, www.patriciagrootjans.com. And you can also find my podcast on YouTube, Quantum Healing for All. And what else was I going to share? Well, my books, of course. If you go to my website, you can find the link to my books, and they are
Yeah, I just
mostly on
want to show
Amazon.
you how even the covers are beautiful. You know, it's like this is so
Yeah,
dreamy. Everything it's just beautiful. And like I say, that's the aspect of Venus on a Taurus in me. It's like, oh my gosh, it's so pretty and you know, so and of
yeah.
course you have to say in them is really deeply touching and nourishing the soul.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah. Well, I'm sure that we could talk for hours, and I'm really glad that you gave me the chance to share a bit about my work and to share our ideas and perspectives about water. And I'm sure we will be doing this in other ways again. Yeah, I would love to.
Yes. Yes, definitely. Thank you
Yeah,
for being here. It's like once you reached out to me, I'm like, oh yes, a water sister. Let's connect and yeah, just diving so much and even the words, you know, like everything water, diving into so much that
yeah,
we both resonate with within each other. Like you mentioned, it's just one of those recognize a soul that you're like, oh yes, there's something here, and this is just the beginning of a beautiful co-creation and collaboration
yes,
and just sharing and that's what I love. That's
yeah,
why this podcast is I want people to share their stories, you know, because I
yeah,
feel like when we listen to somebody else's stories, like we're like, oh my gosh, I feel the same way about this. So you create
yeah,
a connection and it makes you feel, even though you know you're in the Netherlands, I'm in California, but like you said, the distance or the place, it doesn't matter. It's like we are connected. We know we've traveled on this journey alongside each other for many, many times, and you just recognize
exactly.
that. And I want that, you know, people. I know when my spiritual awakening, it felt pretty lonely. You know, it felt like, what's happening? Am I going crazy? Who can I
Yeah,
talk to? And I want this to be a platform for people to like feel like, oh my gosh, I resonate with what Patricia is doing, and I can reach out to her and you know find out more about past life regression, you know, my chart, all these things that help you on your spiritual awakening and your journey. These are tools and people. We're here to walk each other home, right?
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
beautiful that you say that because I really feel that we do. Yeah, that we are doing that. Yeah.
Yeah. Any last
Yeah.
words you would like to leave the audience with? You know, anybody who, you know, just anything in general that you would like to share?
Well, I hope that, as you mentioned, a spiritual awakening can sometimes feel really lonely. And I think I would just want to express to everyone who's listening and who feels alone on their journey, know that you're not going crazy. You're not alone, and we are all in this together. And one of the messages that I received from Jeshua that I describe in my book is that he said that the time is now that we are all going through the awakening. And we are all stepping through that gate. We are all stepping in that light of awakening and enlightenment. Um, so it's important to share what we feel. So don't hesitate to share with people who you love. And even if it's just one person, or reach out to people like Teresa or me and just, well, know that you're not alone and reach out. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Beautifully said. And yes, we're here for each other, so feel free to reach out and connect. And thank you for Patricia for your beautiful energy and all the work that you do. And I absolutely love it. And I know this is just like the tip of the iceberg that we're getting into. So thank you so much, Patricia, and thank you everybody for being here. Until the next episode. Thanks, Patricia. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you so much, Teresa, for holding space and for offering this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Blessings, everyone. Bye.
Bye.